Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. If you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. For today's tutorial, we're making a cable stitch mock neck crop top. This design has been in the works for well over a year and I'm finally glad to bring it to you. There's cables, texture, ribbing, and a mock neck. Basically all the things in a small package. Speaking of, if you're looking for smaller projects or you want something bigger, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of crochet tutorials and patterns for every appetite with more dropping weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 3 yarn will work. But I used a total of 90 grams of yarn, and that's 300 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 4mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you prefer darts or pool. I'm actually not good at either. But as a kid, I did used to have a pool table and I used to try to do trick shots all the time, so I guess I'd have to say pool. Details for the giveaway down below. We are using 6 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, and double treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video. So let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 3 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 4mm hook, and we're all going to start with a cable stitch detail. So everyone, no matter what size we're making, we're all going to start with a chain 8, and that's roughly 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started with our row 1. It is going to be a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then yarn over, and into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook, insert with 1 half double crochet. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that following chain, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain, and we should all end on a total of 8 stitches. Our row 1 is complete. We should all have a total of 8 stitches, and we're all going to get started on our row 2. So we're going to chain 1 and flip our work. Now every even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So just find that first stitch, insert, pull through 2, and continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch, again for a total of 8 stitches. Our row 2 is complete. Now let's get started on our cable stitch row, or our row number 3. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. Now getting started on our cable stitch detail, we're all going to start with 1 front post treble crochet. That's going to be our dividing stitch. So we're all going to yarn over twice. Now every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 1. We're all going to start by finding that first half double crochet from our row 1, making sure that we are not counting that chain 2. We're going to bring our hook down, and underneath the body of that half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook underneath and through the other side. Then from here, we're going to yarn over, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. That is our pillar or front post treble crochet all finished up. Now we're going to be doing front post double treble crochets. So for the next stitch, yarn over 3 times. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now making sure that we're looking at our row 1, we're going to be skipping the following 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1 skip 2, and then into the following 2 stitches, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. So we already yarned over 3 times. We're going to skip 1, skip 2 like I said. Into that following half double crochet from our row 1, insert, pull through, and again yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now that is our first front post double treble crochet. We're going to be doing one more into that following stitch. So again, yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. Into that following stitch, insert your hook underneath the body and through the other side, pull through. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now our first 2 stitches are done for the actual cable stitch detail. Now we're going to be putting 1 front post double treble crochet into each of the 2 stitches that we skipped over. So again, starting with a yarn over of 3. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Now into that first stitch that we skipped, we're going to bring our hook down, and into that stitch we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then another front post double treble crochet into that second stitch that we skipped over. So yarn over 3 times again. Bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch, pull through 2, 2, 2, and 2. Now we should all have 3 stitches left from our row 1. Now into the following 2 stitches, we're going to be putting 1 front post treble crochet into each of those. So yarn over twice, into that third to last stitch from our row 1, or just into that following stitch. Insert, through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we all have 1 loop left on our hook, just like that. And then 1 more front post treble crochet into the following. So yarn over twice. Into that following stitch, insert, pull through 2, 2, 2. Now the last stitch for our cable stitch detail is going to be a front post treble crochet to match this one that we did over here, so it is going to be considered another pillar. But since this is the last one, we're going to be combining it with a half double crochet just to secure down the edge of our cable. So yarn over twice. Insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through, and from here we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 2 loops left on our hook. So I did 1 yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2 again for 1, 2 loops on our hook. Then yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row, yarn over, pull through that stitch for a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops. Now our row 3 is complete. So like I said in the previous clip, every even number row is just going to be a single crochet row. So from where we're at, chain 1, flip our work and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Again, we should all have a total of 8 stitches. We are back and we have just finished our first 4 rows. So let's get started on our row 5, which is another cable stitch row. So we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now for our cable stitches, like I said in one of our previous clips, we are always going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on our row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 3. And it's always going to start with a front post treble crochet or our pillar. So yarn over twice. Finding that first stitch from our previous cable stitch row or our row 3, we're going to bring our hook down and through the other side, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 till there's 1 loop left on our hook. So pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then to get started on our row 5, we're going to be putting 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So yarn over twice. Into that following stitch, we're going to insert underneath and through the other side, pull through, then pull through 2, 2, 2. Another front post treble crochet into that following stitch. You may need to separate your work a little bit, but that stitch is right there. Yarn over twice, underneath the body of that stitch, pull through 2, 2, and 2. Then we're going to be putting 1 front post double treble crochet into the third to last and second to last stitch. So we're going to be skipping over the following 2, and then into the following 2 after that, 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those. So yarn over 1, 2, 3 times. We're going to skip 1, skip 2, into that following, insert your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left on our hook. Then 1 more into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times again, into that following stitch, pull through, pull through 2, 2, 2, 2. Now to finish up our row 5's cable, we are going to be working into those skip stitches, but now into that window that we just made for ourselves. And one front post double treble crochet is going to be worked into each of those. So yarn over 3 times. Then what we're going to do is hang on to our working yarn because it can very easily fall off. And then we're going to pull our work down towards us, finding those 2 stitches that we skipped in through that window. So we're going to pull down and find those 2 skip stitches. Here are mine. Here's my first. Here's my second. Into that first one, we're going to bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, and yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left on our hook. So this is per usual. And this is what the crossover should start to look like for the cable. And we're going to be doing one more into that following skip stitch. So again, yarn over 3 times. Hang on to your working yarn. Pull our work down towards us, finding that last skipped stitch. So into that stitch, insert, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And our twist for our row 5 is complete. Now we're going to close off the row with our front post treble crochet combined with a half double. So just like the previous cable stitch row, we're going to yarn over twice. Finding that last stitch from our previous row, insert underneath and through the other side, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 2 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops left, yarn over and insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row. Then yarn over and pull through for 4 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over and pull through all 4, and our row 5 is complete. From here, we're going to get started on our row 6. So just chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, again for a total of 8 stitches. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just completed our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 rows. Now we're going to continue on with our cable stitch detail, but we are going to be expanding the sides as well to get the detail that we want. So from where we're at, getting started on a row 7, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. Now for the cable stitch detail, it is going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 6. Now all those timestamps will be linked in the description if you guys need them, but they will have some tweaks with it as well. So just to get started on our first expansion row, that is going to start and end with a half double crochet, giving us 2 additional stitches from our previous row. So since we all should have had a total of 8 stitches, this following cable stitch row that we're about to do with each other should have 10. So getting started, we're all going to yarn over into that first stitch with 1 half double crochet. Then from here, since we're working on row 7, we're going to start with a repeat of our row 3. So I'm just going to walk you guys through that really quickly. That's going to start with a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. Insert your hook underneath the first stitch from our previous cable stitch row, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left on our hook. Then we're going to do a set of 2 front post double treble crochets, making sure we're skipping over the following 2 stitches. So yarn over 3 times, skip 1, skip 2. Into the following with 1 front post double treble crochet, and then 1 more into that following stitch. So yarn over 3 times again, into that following stitch, another front post double treble crochet. Then 1 front post double treble crochet into each of those 2 skipped stitches. Now that we have our twist, 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So yarn over twice, into that third to last stitch, insert with our first treble crochet, and then 1 more treble into that following. And now for our last pillar, it is still going to be a front post treble crochet, but it does not need to be combined with a half double crochet anymore, since we are going to have extra stitches along the outer edge. So yarn over twice, inserting your hook into the last stitch from our previous cable stitch row, and pull through, and yarn over and pull through 2 until there's 1 loop left on our hook. And now that our last front post treble crochet is finished, 1 half double crochet to close off the row. So yarn over and into the last stitch from our previous row, 1 half double crochet. Now just to make sure that we're all on the same track, we should all have a total of 10 stitches for this row. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now for every even number row, instead of it being a single crochet row, it's going to be a back loop slip stitch row. So we're all still going to chain 1 and flip our work. There's not going to be any increases or decreases, but all we're going to do is find that first stitch from our previous row and insert into that back loop. Then we're all going to yarn over and gently pull through 2. That is our first back loop slip stitch. Into that following stitch again, insert into that back loop, yarn over and gently pull through everything. And we do want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row could be a little too tight to work into. So once more, into that following stitch's back loop, pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. And for every slip stitch row, like I said, we should have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. So for us right now, 10. We are back. Our back loop slip stitch row is finished. From here, we're just going to continue to expand the outside of our cable stitch detail until we get the length that we want. So let's all get started on the following row. So chain 2 and flip. Now we're going to start this row off with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets, because once when this is finished, we do want to be able to see the ribbing peek out. So yarn over, into that first stitch, insert into that back loop with 1 half double, and then into that same back loop with a second half double crochet. And now we are where the cable stitch is. From here, we're going to do a repeat of our row 5's cable. So just to get that started with you, we're going to yarn over twice, into the first stitch from our previous cable stitch row with 1 front post treble crochet. That is still our pillar. And then from here, we're going to yarn over twice, put 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. Get this cable stitch portion all finished up all the way down to our last front post treble crochet or our pillar, and then I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to finish off the row. We are back. We have just made our way all the way down with our cable stitch detail, making sure that we did do our pillar, and now I'm going to show you how we're going to close off this row. So just like how we started off this row, it's going to be with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So what we're going to do is skip 8 stitches from our previous row, because we did a total of 8 stitches here for our cable stitch detail. So just to count that out together, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So into that following stitch, which should be the last stitch from our previous row for everyone, just for this row, insert with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So into that last stitch, insert into that back loop with 1 back loop half double, and then into that same back loop with a second back loop half double. Now, like I said, we should always have an additional 2 stitches from our previous row whenever we finish up a cable stitch row. So our previous row had a total of 10 stitches, so for this one we should have a total of 12. Just to count that out, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. So chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Alrighty, so our back loop slip stitch row is all finished up. We're going to do 1 more row together, and then from there I'll let you guys continue to expand on our piece. So let's chain 2 and flip. So from this row forward, whenever we're doing our cable stitch row, it's always going to start and end with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. But now since we are expanding, we should have 1 additional stitch. So we're just going to be putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch that we have until we're ready to do our cable. So as an example, let's start this row off with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles. So into that first stitch with 1 back loop half double, and then into that last, a second back loop half double. Now as you guys can see, we're not quite right over the cable stitch detail yet, so I'm just going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into that following stitch, and we're now on top of our cable. So we're just going to get started on this following cable, which is a repeat of row 3. I'll meet you back once we're finished up with our cable. So our cable stitch detail is finished. We're now going to finish off this row with our half double crochets. Now the end of our row is always going to mirror the first half of the row. So since we did 1 back loop half double crochet and then an increase, we're going to close off the row with 1 back loop half double crochet and then an increase. So just to make sure that we are always on the right track, we're going to skip 8 stitches from our previous row. So to count that out together, here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Into that following stitch, we're going to insert with 1 back loop half double, and then into the stitch right after that, which should be our last stitch, with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2, and our following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. Now from here, like I said, we're just going to continue to expand the outside of our cable stitch details. So just as a really quick tip, Our following cable stitch detail is going to be an increase of 2 back loop half doubles, 2 back loop half double crochets, then our cable stitch detail, and then it's going to end with 2 back loop half double crochets and then an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So basically what I'm saying is for the singular back loop half double crochets that we have, it's always going to increase by 1, since every cable stitch row is going to have an additional 2 stitches because of our increases. So all we're going to do from here is just continue to repeat these rows. So our rows 3 through 6 cable stitch detail is still going to be the same, just with some extra stitches along the outer edge. And we're going to continue on with this until we have the length of the piece that we want. I'd like for my piece to be a mock neck, so I'm going to place my first row at the base of my neck. And then I'm just going to continue on with this until this reaches the length that I want for my top to be. So mine is going to be a crop top, so roughly around where my waist is, because we are going to have a bottom band as well. I will meet you guys back once we finish up a cable stitch row, and then we can get started on the side panels. Alrighty, so we are back. I am all finished up with the length of my cable stitch detail. I have a total of 39 rows, and my total length is roughly 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters, and the width along the bottom is 7 inches or 18 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to start working on the side panel, so we're all going to start with a single crochet row. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1 and flip our work. So what we're all going to do now is put 2 single crochets into every side half double, and then 1 single crochet into every side slip stitch / single crochet row once we make our way up to the top. So into our first side half double crochet row, we're going to insert our hook into that top loop with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. Everyone's first side row should be a side half double crochet row, because we all should have ended right after a cable stitch row. Everyone's following side row should be a side slip stitch row. Now from here, we're just going to find that top loop and insert your hook, if we can, with just 1 single crochet. Let's do this set again. Into our following side half double, find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then into that same top loop with a second. And then into our following side row, which is a side slip stitch row, find that top loop and single crochet once. We're going to continue this, making our way all the way up. And we do want to make sure that we are all ending right after an even number of stitches. So if we end on an odd number, go ahead and just add 1 extra single crochet into that last side row. Do a chain up of 1 and cut once we reach the top, and then I'll meet you guys back. Alrighty, so we are back and our single crochet row is all finished up. Now we're going to do another row to get started on our Alpine stitch detail. So we did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to do a single crochet to half double to double crochet row. Now the amount of stitches that we have for each of our sections is going to be completely up to you, but we do need to make sure that we're starting off with singles. In the middle somewhere is half doubles, and then we're ending with double crochets, since this is at a slant and we eventually want this to even out. So for those of you that have my numbers, I had a total of 60 single crochets. So I inserted my stitch marker into the 15th stitch from the bottom. That's going to be my 15 single crochets. Then I inserted my second stitch marker into the 15th stitch away from that one. That's going to be 15 half double crochets for me. And then the rest are all going to be double crochets. But like I said, you guys can insert your stitch markers into wherever you'd like. So a suggestion on where to insert your stitch markers for the following row would be roughly about a quarter of the way up for the single crochets. Then the following stitch marker would be placed roughly within the middle, and that does need to be within an even number from the bottom. And we do want to make sure that we're keeping track of how many stitches we have for each section, because we're going to want to mirror it on the other side when we eventually get to that spot. What we're going to do from here is insert our hook into our bottom corner stitch of our detail and insert our yarn onto our hook. We're all going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure, and start with 1 single crochet into every stitch until we reach our stitch marker. And for this row, and every row for this section, be sure to place your stitch markers into the tops of all the same stitches. My single crochet section is finished. Now we're going to be putting 1 half double crochet into every stitch until we reach our following stitch marker. And now that our half double crochets are finished, we're going to close off the row with our double crochets. So let's just do the first one together. We're all going to yarn over, insert our hook into that following stitch, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I will meet you guys back when we all have 9 stitches left. Alright, so we are back. We have done our double crochets to finish up the rest of the row, leaving the last 9 stitches. And now we're all going to do a decrease of 6 double crochets. I don't know, I kind of just made it up as I was making the pattern. But if this stitch that we're about to do actually has a name, please feel free to let me know what it's called because I do not want to confuse anyone. But what we're going to do now is yarn over and insert our hook into that following stitch. So just to make sure, we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. And we're all going to yarn over, insert our hook into that 9th to last, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Insert into that following stitch, pull through, following, pull through, following, pull through, following, pull through, and then following stitch as well, pull through, and we should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops on our hook, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left at the end of the row. Now from here, we're just going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on our hook. Again, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now once we have those 3 loops on our hook, all we're going to do is pull that first loop underneath the second and third loop just so we can maintain the height of the double crochets. So just hook that first loop onto our hook and pull through both, and that is our decrease of 6 double crochets. Now we should have 8 less stitches from our previous row, and all we're going to do from here is our single crochet row. So chain 1, flip our work, and then make our way all the way down, putting 1 single crochet into every stitch, making sure that we are inserting our stitch markers into the same spaces. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just finished up our first 2 rows, and now we can get started on our Alpine stitch detail. So first things first, we're actually going to take out our first stitch marker that we have that's nearest to the bottom. We actually don't need that one anymore. So we're just going to take that guy out, and now we should just have our middle stitch marker stitch. Now from here, we're going to start off our Alpine stitch detail with a chain 1 and flip our work. And now to do our Alpine stitch detail, we're all going to start by finding that first stitch from our previous row and insert with a single crochet. So into that first stitch, insert with a single. Then we're going to do a front post double crochet. So yarn over. So kind of like how our cables are worked into every odd number row, the same rules apply for the Alpine. So since we're working on our row 3, remembering that we are not counting that first single crochet row that we cut after. So finding the first actual row for this section, we're going to find the second single crochet. Now we're going to find the second single crochet because the first single crochet that we just did counts as that first one. So underneath that second single crochet from our row 1, we're going to bring our hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side. Then from here, we're going to yarn over and pull through. When we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're all going to pull up nice and tall to get the same height as the single crochet. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a front post double crochet. And that is also our first set. So a single crochet and a front post double counts as a set for this section. Let's do another set together. Into that following available stitch, we're going to insert with a single crochet. Now, we do want to make sure that we're skipping that following stitch from our previous row because that stitch counts as our front post double crochet. So into the next, insert with a single crochet and then a double. So yarn over. We're going to be skipping that following stitch from our row 1 because that single crochet counts as that stitch, and then into the next with a front post double crochet. So insert, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now all together we should have 2 sets or 4 stitches in total so far for this row. Let's do this again. Skip 1 stitch from our previous row, into the next, insert with a single crochet, then yarn over. Then we're going to do our front post double. So into that next available stitch, insert underneath, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. And now we shall have a total of 1, 2, 3 sets from our previous row, or a total of 6 stitches. We're going to continue doing this until we reach our stitch marker stitch. I am back with my row 3. I have done my Alpine stitches all the way down until we have reached our stitch marker stitch. Everyone's last stitch should have been a front post double crochet, and that should have been right in front of our stitch marker stitch. Now we're going to take our stitch marker stitch out and insert it into the top of that front post double, and then we're going to do the rest of our Alpine stitch detail. So for the second half of our row, it's going to be pretty much the same way that we did the first half, but instead of single crochets, we're going to be doing half double crochets just to get it to extend a little bit. So since everyone's last stitch should have been a front post double crochet, we're all going to yarn over And then into that stitch that we would normally be doing a single crochet into, we're just going to insert with a half double. So skip one stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch, and then into the next. Insert with a half double. Again, our following stitch is a front post double, so yarn over. Into that following stitch, pull through, pull up tall, pull through two, and then again, yarn over. Skip one stitch from our previous row because our front post double counts as that stitch, and then half double crochet. And we're going to continue with this until we have 9 stitches left. Alrighty, so we are back. We have made our way all the way down with our first alpine stitch row, or our row number 3, and we have left the last 9 stitches. Now we're going to do a similar decrease from our previous decrease of 6 that we just did, but now that's going to be post stitches since we are working on our alpine stitch row. So let's get this started together. Now all together we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches left, and everyone's last stitch should have been a half double crochet. So let's get started on our decrease of 6 post stitches, and again, if this stitch actually has a name, let me know what it is in the comments below. So what we're all going to do is yarn over. Now since our last stitch was a half double crochet, our following stitch is going to look like a front post double crochet because we're going to want to keep up with the ribbing, otherwise it's going to end right here and it's going to look kind of blunt. So we're going to insert our hook into the following stitch from our previous alpine stitch row the same way that we would as if we're starting a normal front post double crochet. So underneath the body of that stitch, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through. Don't forget to pull up nice and tall. Now when we have those 3 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. Then when we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're going to move on to the next stitch. So the next stitch would typically be a half double crochet. So we are going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet that we didn't quite finish counts as that stitch, and into the next we're going to insert our hook, pull through for 3 loops on our hook. And we're going to do that 2 more times. So yarn over, insert our hook into that next stitch as if we're doing a normal front post double crochet. So underneath the body, insert, yarn over, and pull through. Once we pull through, we're going to pull up tall for a total of 5 loops on our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Now for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to do our half double crochet for our alpine stitch detail. So remembering, skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch. Into the next, we're just going to insert, yarn over, and pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Now let's do that again. Yarn over, inserting our hook into that next available stitch the same way that we normally would as if this was a normal front post double crochet. Insert your hook underneath the body, yarn over, and pull through. Pull up nice and tall for a total of 7 loops on our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops for 6 loops on our hook. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then our half double crochet. So skip 1 stitch from our previous row and into the next, insert, and pull through for a total of 7 loops on our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're going to leave the last 3 stitches, kind of like how we did for our previous row. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops for 5 loops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, pull through 2 for 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through 2 for 3 loops on our hook. Now when we have 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull that first loop underneath the second and third loop to get the same height as our detail. So just pull that first loop underneath the second and underneath the third loop. And now our post decrease is all finished. Now from here, our following row is going to be a single crochet row. So chain 1, flip our work and put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making sure that we're inserting our stitch marker into the same stitches. And then I'll meet you guys back right after the single crochet row. Now, just as a really quick tip, every alpine stitch row should have 8 less stitches than our previous row, and then our single crochet row should have the same amount of stitches as the previous alpine stitch row. Alrighty, so we are back. Our single crochet row is all finished up. Now what we're all going to do from here is our following alpine stitch row. But right before we do that, I'm just going to really quickly talk you guys through how we're going to figure out the sizing for this. Now I want a very specific design. Now after each of these decrease rows, we're going to want to place this up to ourselves to make sure that everything is fitting where it needs to fit. So making sure that our first cable stitch row is where we want the depth of our collar to be, so for me at the base of my neck. And we're going to continue to do these decrease rows until this top corner that we have right here can align with the corner of our underarm. Now it doesn't need to touch it, it just needs to be along the same plane as the corner of our underarm, because from there we're going to do a few more decrease rows to get a really smooth curve for the underarm portion. Now so far we shall have a total of 4 rows. I am actually already on the same plane as my underarm portion, so I am actually done after this row doing these types of decreases. But since the Alpine stitches is different for every odd number row, I'm going to get started on the following row with you just to make sure that we have the Alpine stitch down and the decrease as well. So let's get started on the following Alpine stitch row. Now when it comes to doing our Alpine stitch detail, our stitches need to be staggered. So taking a look at our previous Alpine stitch row, we started with a single crochet. So getting started on this row, we're going to start with a front post double crochet into the single crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row. So we're all going to yarn over. Finding that first single crochet, we're going to insert our hook underneath that stitch through the other side, pull through. Then from here we're going to pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then we're going to do a single crochet. So skip that following stitch from our previous row because it's front post double crochet, counts as that stitch, and then into the next, insert with a single. So basically the same idea as our previous rows, but we do want to make sure that we're inserting our front post doubles into our previous row's single or half double crochets depending on what part of the row you're on, and our single crochets are going to be on top of our previous row's front post doubles. So let's do this again. Yarn over, finding our single crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, we're going to bring our hook down underneath the body of that stitch through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then single crochet. So skip 1 stitch from our previous row, insert with a single, let's do just 1 more set, yarn over, finding our single crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, bring our hook underneath and through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then skip 1 stitch from our previous row and single crochet. Now for this row, so far we should all have 1, 2, 3 sets, or a total of 6 stitches. We're going to continue doing this until we reach our stitch marker stitch. We are back and the first half of our Alpine row is finished. Our last stitch should have been a single crochet worked into that stitch marker stitch, and we do want to make sure that we're inserting our stitch marker into the top of that stitch. Then from here we're going to continue on with our Alpine stitch detail, but now with half double crochets instead of single crochets until we all have 9 stitches left. So just to get started on the following one with you guys, since we just finished up a single crochet, our following stitch is going to be a front post double, so yarn over. Finding our half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row, insert your hook underneath the body and through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch, and then half double crochet into the next, and continue with our stitches until we all have 9 stitches left. Alrighty, so we are back. We have made our way all the way up and we should all have a total of 9 stitches left. So all together, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now it will technically be 10 stitches, but remember that that 10th to last stitch counts as this front post double crochet. So what we're all going to do from here is another decrease of 6 post stitches. It's going to be the same exact idea as the previous decrease of 6 post stitches that we did, but we're actually going to start with the half double crochet first, because the last stitch that we did for our Alpine stitch detail was a front post double crochet, and we do want to keep up with the texture. So let's do this one together. We're all going to start by skipping 1 stitch from our previous row, because this stitch counts as this front post double crochet. We're going to insert our hook into that following stitch, yarn over, and pull through for 2 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that next stitch as if we're starting a front post double crochet per usual. So into our last Alpine stitch details, half double crochet, through the other side, yarn over, and pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to pull up tall, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops for a total of 3. Let's do this again. We are going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row and into that next stitch, insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that next half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row as if we were starting a front post double. So underneath the body, through the other side, yarn over, and pull through. Should have a total of 6 loops on our hook. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. We're going to do this once more. We're going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row, into the next, insert, pull through. Then we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that next stitch as if we're starting a front post double crochet. So insert, yarn over, and pull through. Now for a total of 8 loops on our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then yarn over, pull through 2, and we should now have a total of 7 loops on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now that we have all 7 of those loops on our hook, we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. And since this last stitch is a front post double crochet, we are going to need to combine it with a half double crochet just to make sure that everything is secured down. So yarn over once more, and then into the 4th to last stitch, insert your hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Into that 4th stitch, we're going to insert, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on our hook. Then from here, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left. So yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through the following 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. And we should all have 3 loops left on our hook. So what we're going to do is pull that first loop underneath the 2nd and 3rd loop, and we are complete. Now our following row is going to be our single crochet row. So chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making sure that we're inserting our stitch marker into the stitch. Alright, we are back. We have just finished up the first 6 rows when it came to doing our decrease side panel detail. Now from here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until this top corner that we have aligns with the top corner of our underarm portion. And I will meet everyone back right after a single crochet row that follows a repeat of our row 3. And just as a reminder, our row 3 is the row that starts with a single crochet. Now, like I said, I was actually all finished right after my first 4 rows. So I will be taking apart my 2 previous rows, and then I will meet you guys back so we can get started on the underarm portion. And just as a really quick tip, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, every Alpine stitch row should have 8 less stitches than our previous row, and then our single crochet row should have the same amount of stitches as the previous Alpine stitch row. Alrighty, so we are back. I have just finished up the first half of my side panel. And like I said, I needed 4 rows for this portion, so I took away some rows. Now this portion is roughly 1 inch or 2 centimeters, or my total width along the bottom is 8 inches or 20 centimeters. Now what we're going to do from here is continue on with our same Alpine stitch rows, but now just doing a decrease of 3 at the end of every row until this curves all the way down to the size that you like. So we all should have ended right after a single crochet row that ended right after a repeat of our row 3. So what we're going to do from here is chain 1, flip our work, and get started on our following row, which everyone's following row should start with a front post double crochet, and then continue on with our Alpine stitch detail, alternating between a single and a front post double, all the way until we reach our stitch marker. Once we reach our stitch marker, continue to do our Alpine stitch detail, but instead of a single crochet, we're going to be doing a half double crochet and front post double crochet all the way down until we all have a total of 3 stitches left. Alrighty, so we are back. We have made our way all the way up with our Alpine stitch detail, leaving the last 3 stitches. Now everyone's last stitch should have been a front post double crochet. Now technically we are going to have 4 stitches left because that 4th to last stitch counts as this front post double crochet, but all we're going to do from here is close off this row with a decrease of 3 half doubles. So yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd to last, pull through, 2nd to last, pull through, and into that last, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 5. And that's it. From here, we're going to chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch. I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just finished up our first 2 underarm rows, and let's get started on the next one. So since you should all be along the bottom, what we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work, and do our following Alpine stitch row, making our way all the way up. So just as a quick refresher, everyone's following Alpine stitch row is going to start with a single crochet. Into that next stitch is a front post double, and continue that to reach our stitch marker. Once we reach our stitch marker, we're going to continue on with our Alpine stitch details, but instead of a single crochet, we're going to be doing a half double crochet and front post double crochet until we all have 3 stitches left again. Alright, so we are back. We've made our way all the way up and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left, and everyone's last stitch should have been a half double crochet. Now how we're going to close off every row that ends with a front post double crochet is going to be a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet, and that's going to count as our decrease as well. So let's get that started. We're all going to yarn over and insert our hook into that following stitch from our previous Alpine stitch row. So that is per usual. We're going to insert, bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through. When we have those 3 loops, pull up tall and pull through 2. Now when we have these 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into the last stitch from our previous row. So we are going to be skipping that third to last and second to last. Into that last stitch, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through. We should all have 4 loops on our hook, then just yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops. And that is our decrease for this row. Then our following row is another single crochet row without any increases or decreases. So chain 1, flip your work, and put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Alrighty, so we are back. Our first 4 rows for our underarm portion is all finished up, and from here we're just going to continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until this decreased portion that we have becomes the height that we'd like for this to be. Now this portion that we're doing is going to be completely up to you and how much you would like to show. So if you would like for your underarm portion to be a little bit deeper, we're going to do more of these decreased rows, or if you'd like, you can stop here. You can start wherever you're comfortable. This part really is up to you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just going to continue to repeat these 4 rows until we get the height of the underarm that we need. And just making sure that when we're putting this up to ourselves, we're placing this first row wherever we want the base of our collar to be, just to make sure that we're getting the right spacing that we want for the underarm. Now once we have the specific height that we want for the underarm portion, I will meet you guys back right after a single crochet row. And the rest is just going to be Alpine stitch rows without any more increases or decreases. So I'm just going to talk you guys through how to do that portion once we get there. Alrighty, so we are back. My underarm portion is all finished up. I have a total of 16 rows. My total width along the bottom is roughly 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters. And now all we're going to do from here, now that we have the height that we want the underarm to be, is just continue on with our Alpine stitch rows until our Alpine stitch detail becomes completely vertical. So what I mean by completely vertical is when we place this up to ourselves, we want this row, as you can see, it's slightly at a slant, just to be completely straight up and down. So we're almost there. We want it to be straight up and down so that once we wrap our way all the way around to the back panel, when we seam it, there aren't going to be any buckles. So from here, continue to do our Alpine stitch rows, but now without any increases or decreases until this becomes completely vertical. So just as a refresher, make sure that each of our Alpine stitch rows are staggered from the previous row stitches because we're looking for this texture that we have right over here. And there is going to be a single crochet row in between. And for every Alpine stitch row, we're going to continue to start with single and front post double crochets until we reach our stitch marker, and then close off the row with half double and front post double crochets. Then I'll meet you guys back once our work is completely vertical, just to talk you guys through how we're going to continue this all the way around. Alrighty, so we are back. I have just finished up the rest of my Alpine stitch portion until our work became completely vertical, and I now have a total of 28 rows, and my total width along the bottom is 12.5 inches or 32 centimeters. Now from here, since our work is completely vertical now, we're just going to continue on with our Alpine stitch detail with no increases, no decreases, and we don't need to switch up our stitches anymore. So our Alpine stitches is just going to be a single and a front post double all the way down, so we can take out our stitch markers, and we're just going to continue to repeat those rows until this reaches all the way around to mid back. And that's going to be one complete side for our panel. But once we have that length all figured out, make sure we all end on an Alpine stitch row. After that last row, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you guys back so we can get started on this side of our panel. Alrighty, so we are back. I have just finished up the entirety of my Alpine stitch detail. Quick tip, it may curl in just like how mine does, but it'll all even out once when it's seamed. But just to let y'all know, I have a total of 49 rows, and the total width that I have along the base is 16.5 inches or 42 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to repeat everything we did here on the other side, but the Alpine stitch detail is not reversible, so we're all going to need to insert our hook into a different spot, and the directions will be just a little bit different, but we'll do it all together. So to get started on the left side, what we're going to do is insert our hook into this top corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. Then we're going to do our single crochet row. So the same first single crochet row that we did for this side. We're going to be putting 2 single crochets into every side half double, 1 single crochet into every side single / slip stitch row. And then for those of you that remember, for this first single crochet row that we did on this side, if we ended on an odd number of stitches, we are going to add 1 more extra stitch into that last side row. So this single crochet row should have the same amount of stitches as this first single crochet row right over here. When you make your way all the way down, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you guys back along the top. Alrighty, so my single crochet row is all finished up. Once I reach the bottom, I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then from here, we're all going to be inserting our stitch markers into the same stitch markers that we inserted into for the other side. So for those of you that have my numbers, counting from the bottom, I inserted my first stitch marker into the 15th stitch, and then my second stitch marker into the 30th. Now from here, we're going to get started on our official row 1, because remember, this single crochet row doesn't technically count as our row 1. And what we're going to do is flip our work over so that we're looking at the back. And counting from the top, we're going to insert our hook into the 9th stitch. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to insert my hook in through there, and now we're going to do the same decrease that we did for the other side. So we are going to insert our yarn onto our hook and pull through. Now we're going to get started on our decrease, and we're going to be working up towards the top. So once we pull through, we're all going to chain 1 to secure it down. And what we're going to do is insert our hook into that same stitch that our chain 1 is in. So we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that same stitch as our chain, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, into that following stitch, yarn over, pull through for 4, following, insert, pull through for 5, following, insert, pull through for 6, following, insert, pull through for 7, following, insert, pull through for a total of 8 loops on our hook. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we should all have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Now from here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left on our hook. So all together, let's yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2. Once we have these 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pull that first loop underneath the second and third loop on our hook for a total of 1 loop on our hook. And then from here, since we are working backwards, what we're going to do is chain 1, insert our stitch marker into that chain 1, because this is going to technically be the first stitch for this row, and flip our work. So this is now the decrease that we have to mirror on this side. And what we're going to do from here is put 1 double crochet into every stitch until we reach our stitch marker, 1 half double crochet into every stitch until we reach our following stitch marker, and then 1 single crochet into the rest of our stitches. Then I'll meet you guys back at the end of this row. Alrighty, so we are back. Our first official Alpine stitch detail row is all finished. We are at the bottom. Now what we're all going to do from here is chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making sure that we're inserting our stitch markers into the same stitches. And I'll meet you back once when our last single crochet is worked into our stitch marker stitch right up here. And then do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you guys back so we can do our following decrease together, just like how we did for our row 3 for this Alpine stitch detail. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up our second row for our Alpine stitch detail. We've made our way all the way up, and we have done a chain up of 1 and cut. And now from here, we're going to get started on the Alpine stitch detail. So it's going to be roughly similar to how we did it on this side. So to get started on our row 3, we're going to take out our bottom stitch marker stitch because we don't need that anymore. So we should all just have our middle stitch marker stitch. And again, we're going to flip our work over to look at the back and then insert our hook into the 9th stitch from the top. So we're all going to get started with our decrease of 6 post stitches now. Now since this is our first Alpine stitch row, we're going to do this decrease with back post double crochets so that it can mimic the front post double crochets once when we turn our work and work our way back down. So now that our hook is in through the 9th to last stitch, we are going to be inserting our yarn onto your hook. Then we're going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now let's get this started. We're all going to yarn over. Then taking a look at our row 1 from our Alpine stitch detail, so where all of our double crochets are, we're going to do a back post double crochet into the 9th to last stitch. So counting that up together, this is my first stitch, which is that stitch, which is our decrease stitch. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now that 9th stitch should be directly underneath where our chain 1 is in. So what we're going to do from here is bring our hook underneath our work and then in through that gap, over that 9th stitch that we just counted out and through the other side. Then we're all going to yarn over and pull through for a total of 3 loops on our hook. When we have those 3 loops, we're going to pull up tall as if we would with our normal front post double crochets. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops on our hook. Then we're going to insert our hook into that following stitch that we have, so that stitch that's nearest to the chain 1 working towards the top. We're going to insert and pull through for 3 loops on our hook. Let's do that again. We're now going to yarn over. Now we do want to make sure that we are skipping that following stitch because we just insert our hook into that following stitch. So this is where our first back post double crochet is. Skip that next stitch and then bring your hook down underneath the following. So we just yarned over, bring our hook down into that next gap and then over that next stitch and through the other side, then yarn over and pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then we're going to pull up tall, yarn over, pull through 2 for a total of 4 loops on our hook. Then we're going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because that back post double crochet that we did counts as that stitch, and then into the next, yarn over, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then we're going to do this once more. So yarn over and get started on our following back post double crochet. So remember, we're going to be skipping that following stitch because we just insert our hook into that following stitch. And then underneath that next stitch, bring your hook underneath your work, in through that gap, over that stitch post and through the other side, yarn over and pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on our hook. Then we're going to pull up tall, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Then to finish off our decrease, we're going to skip that following stitch because that back post that we just did counts as that stitch. And then into the next, we're going to insert and pull through, and we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on our hook, and 1, 2, 3 stitches left. Then all we're going to do is yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left on our hook. So yarn over and pull through the first 2 for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 for 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, and we should all have 3 loops left. From here, we're going to pull that first loop underneath that second and third stitch. We're going to chain 1, and don't forget to insert your stitch marker into the top of that chain because that will count as the first stitch for this row, and flip our work. Now this is what our decrease should look like. So far it should look somewhat like Alpine stitches, and since we're along the top, we're going to be doing our Alpine stitches starting with half double crochets. Once we reach our stitch marker, then it's going to be our regular Alpine stitches, so with single crochets. So just to get this row started, for every size we're all going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet, and just into that following stitch, insert with 1 half double crochet, and this is going to be per usual. So yarn over, skip the following stitch from our previous odd number row because that half double crochet counts as that stitch, into that next with a front post double crochet. And just to do this first row to make sure that we have our Alpine stitches down, continue with our Alpine stitch all the way until we reach our stitch marker, and our last stitch should be worked into that stitch marker stitch. Alright, so we've made our way down to our stitch marker stitch. Everyone's last stitch should have been a front post double crochet, and I did insert my stitch marker into that stitch just so I know where our Alpines are going to be split for the following rows. Then from here it's going to be the same as our regular Alpine stitches, but instead of half doubles, we're going to be doing single crochets all the way down. Everyone's last stitch should be a single crochet. Then at the end of that row, chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch, remembering to insert your stitch marker into that same middle stitch. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And just as a really quick reminder, every odd number row for this section should have 8 less stitches than our previous row. Alrighty, so I am back. My first 4 rows from my left Alpine stitch detail is all finished up. Now from here, I am actually all finished up with this decrease detail, but for some of you guys, you may not be finished. So I'm going to be showing you how to do the following decrease. So if you need to do more of these decrease rows, once when we ended along the top, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now I am finished, like I said, so I'm just going to insert my stitch marker into there, and then I'm going to grab the other end of my yarn just to show you guys how we're going to do our following decrease. So let's flip our work over and then insert our hook into the 9th stitch from the top. So I have flipped my work over and my hook is now into the 9th stitch from the top. We are now going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, we just need that to secure everything down. So we're all going to start by inserting our hook into the same stitch as our chain 1. So into that same stitch, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through for 2 loops on our hook. Then from here, we're going to yarn over, preparing for a back post double crochet. And then we're going to be doing a back post double crochet into that following stitch from our previous row. Now, if you flip your work over, you're going to see that our previous row has all of these ridges for our Alpine stitch detail. We're going to want to make sure that our hook is being inserted into our previous row's half double crochet, not into any of the post stitches, because if we work into the post stitches, we'll end up with some ribbing, which is pretty, but not what we want for this piece. So counting from our previous row, we're all going to count out 8 stitches. So our decrease is this one right here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It should be a half double crochet from our previous row. So bring our hook underneath our work and over that next stitch, through the other side, yarn over and pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook. When we have those 4 loops, we're going to pull up tall, yarn over and pull through 2 for a total of 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row and then insert our hook into the following. So we're going to skip that following stitch because this back post double crochet counts as that stitch. And then into the next, we're going to insert, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, preparing for another back post double crochet. We're going to bring our hook underneath our piece and finding that next half double crochet, over that next half double crochet, through the other side, pull through. And then once we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook, we're going to pull up tall, then yarn over, pull through 2 for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. We're going to have 1 more of these to do, so we're going to skip that following stitch because that back post double crochet counts as that stitch, and then into that stitch, pull through for 6 loops on our hook. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to yarn over, preparing for a back post double crochet. Bring your hook underneath our work, and then finding that following half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch row. We're going to bring our hook up and over the body of that stitch through the other side and pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loops on our hook. Don't forget to pull up tall, then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2. And then from here, we are going to need to close off this row. So we're going to yarn over, just insert your hook into that following stitch. We don't need to skip a stitch anymore because this is just going to be the last stitch. And it should be the 4th to last stitch from our previous row. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Just into that next stitch. Pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 3 loops left on our hook. So pull through 2, 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 then pull our first loop underneath our following 2 loops, and that is our decrease. Then from here, we're going to chain 1. Make sure that you're inserting a stitch marker into that chain space because this is going to count as the first stitch for this row, and flip our work. And now that our work is flipped, we're going to do our Alpine stitch detail. So just to get this one started off with you, we're going to yarn over, finding that next available stitch from our previous row, insert with a front post double crochet, skip a stitch, half double crochet into the next, and continue on with our front post double and half double crochet stitches until we reach our stitch marker. And then from there, we're going to continue on with our Alpine stitch details, but now it's single and front post double crochets all the way down. Now for this row, everyone's last stitch should be a front post double crochet. Just do a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet, and then this row will be finished. Our following row will be a single crochet row, so put 1 single crochet into every stitch, remembering to insert your stitch marker into that same stitch. Now from here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows as our decreased detail on this side. Now, like I said in one of our previous clips, I only had 4 rows on this side, so I'm going to take away my previous row to have a total of 4 rows on this side. And once we have the amount of rows that we need, we should all end along the top. And once we have that, I will meet you guys back. Alright, so we are back. I am all finished up with my neckline portion. Like I said in one of my previous clips, I had a total of 4 rows for this side, so I have a total of 4 rows for this side. Now from here, we're going to get started on our underarm portion, which was just our decrease that we did along the top. So from here, we all should have ended along the top. So we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. So we're all going to start with a decrease, and this decrease, since we are along the top and everyone's first stitch from our previous Alpine stitch row is a half double crochet, is going to be a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet. And that's going to be done pretty much the same way that we have done all of the other ones, and it counts as a pretty good decrease technique as well. So what we're going to do is yarn over. Inserting our hook into our previous row's half double crochet, we're going to bring our hook down, and underneath the body of that half double crochet, yarn over, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, then pull up tall and pull through 2. When we have those 2 loops on our hook, we're all going to yarn over. And from my previous row, we're all going to insert our hook into that 3rd stitch. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. Into that 3rd stitch, we're going to pull through for a total of 4 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 4. And that is how we're going to do our first decrease. Then from here, everyone's next available stitch is going to be a half double crochet. We're not going to be working into that front post double crochet that's right before, because this half double crochet counts as that stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into that following half double, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then again, we're going to yarn over, skip that following stitch from our previous row and into the next with a half double, yarn over, preparing for a front post double into the next. Insert, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, skip a stitch from our previous row and half double crochet into the next. We're going to continue doing this, making our way until we reach our stitch marker stitch. Once we reach our stitch marker stitch, don't forget to insert your stitch marker into the top of that stitch. Then continue on with our Alpine stitch details, but now with single crochet and front post doubles to reach the end of the row. And everyone's last stitch will be a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet. This one is going to be done the same way that we've been doing it. Then at the end of that row, chain 1, flip our work, put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way back up, making sure we're inserting our stitch marker into the same stitch, and I'll meet you back when we're about to get started on our following Alpine stitch row. So our first 2 rows for our underarm is all finished. Now I'm just going to get started on the following underarm with you guys, and then we're just going to continue on with our underarm rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows as the right side. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. So we're all going to start this row off with a decrease of 3 half double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, stitch after that, pull through for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 5. Then our following stitch is going to be a front post double crochet into the half double crochet from our previous row that's directly underneath. So yarn over, underneath that stitch, through the other side, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then just to finish off this Alpine stitch set, yarn over, preparing for a half double. Skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double crochet counts as that stitch, and then into the following 1 half double crochet. Then from here, we're going to continue to do our front post double and half double crochets until we reach our stitch marker stitch. Then finish off the row with the same Alpine stitch details, but instead of a half double, we're now doing a single crochet and front post double to reach the end of the row. And for this section, everyone's last stitch will be a front post double crochet combined with a half double crochet to get the numbers that we all need. At the end of the row, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Now from here, we are all going to continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until we have the same amount of rows at this underarm portion that we have on this side. Then I will meet you guys back. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just finished up the underarm portion of our left front panel. We have the same amount of rows as the right side, and now we're going to do our side panel. So if you guys remember, right after we finished up our underarm portion on this side, we just did our Alpine stitch detail until our work became completely vertical. So we're going to do the same thing on this side for the same amount of rows that we had over here. So just to talk you guys through it, since we are along the top now, we're going to chain 2, flip our work, and then do our Alpine stitch detail. That is a half double and front post double crochet until we reach our stitch marker. Once we reach our stitch marker, finish up the Alpine stitch row with our single and front post double crochets to reach the end of the row. Every even number row is going to be a single crochet row, and this portion is not going to have any increases or decreases. So continue on with this until we have the same amount of side panel rows that we have on this side. And then I'll meet you guys back just so we can go straight in with our regular Alpine stitch rows after that for the back panel. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just finished up the side panel, and now from here we're just going to do our Alpine stitch detail with no increases, no decreases, no more switching our singles to half doubles. We're just going to continue on with our regular Alpine stitch rows until we have the same total amount of rows that we have over here. And once when we do not do a chain up of 1 and cut, because we can work straight into the back seam together from there. Alrighty, so we are back. I am all finished with the entirety of pretty much the whole piece minus the bottom band, and now from here we're going to seam it all together. So what we're going to do is fold our work in half, making sure all of the details are touching each other because we're going to want this single crochet seam to be along the inside. So now that our work is folded in half, we are going to be inserting our hook into the corner stitch of the front and the corner stitch of the back panel. We are then going to yarn over and pull through everything on our hook, and now we're going to do our single crochet seam. So finding our first available stitch into the front panel, insert, next available stitch into the back panel, insert, with a single crochet. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert with a single, again, next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and I'll meet you back so we can do our bottom band. Alrighty, so everything is all seamed up, and now we're going to get started on the bottom band. So let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning the seam that we did is now along the inside, and then we're going to flip our work upside down and insert our hook into any one of the side rows that we have. We're all going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do from here is put 1 single crochet into every side row, and then once we reach the front panel, 1 single crochet into each of our stitches underneath the cable stitch detail. So let's just do the first few. This is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1 single crochet. Then moving on to my following side row, don't forget we have single crochet rows in between our Alpine stitch rows. I'm going to find that top loop and single crochet. That's basically it. Let's just do another set of rows together. This Alpine stitch row is my following row, so I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook with a single crochet, and then finding my following side single crochet row, I'm going to insert my hook in through that top loop and single. Now continue with 1 single crochet into every side row, making your way all the way around, and then slip stitch into that chain space. Now once we slip stitch into that chain space, make sure that we're trying our piece on, because the single crochet row is going to be as wide as our piece can stretch. So if it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Alright, so we are back. We've made our way all the way around with our single crochet row. We double checked and made sure that everything fit nicely, and now from here we're going to get started on the length of our bottom band. So right after we've slip stitched into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. Now you can make this as long or as short as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be shorter, roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10. So now that we have our chain, we're going to do a slip stitch row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert. Once we have 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and gently pull through both loops. So pull through 1 and pull through the second. Let's do that again. Into that following chain, we are going to insert our hook, yarn over, and again gently pull through everything on our hook and continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. And we do want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row could be too tight to work into. So now that we've put 1 slip stitch into every chain, we're now going to need to connect it into the base. So finding that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert, yarn over, and pull through everything with a slip stitch. That slip stitch does not count as a stitch, that's just to connect it into the base. Now our row 1 is connected, and we do need to work our way up to the following row, so slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base as well. Yarn over, pull through everything, that slip stitch does not count as a stitch as well, and flip our work. Now from here, we're going to be putting 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So start by inserting your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches into the base. We're going to insert into that back loop and gently pull through both loops on our hook. And since we already know how to do our back loop slip stitches, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the base. And just as a reminder, each of these rows should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. We are back and we now have 1, 2, 3 rows nearly finished. We're now just going to connect our row 3 into the base once more, and it's going to be done exactly the same way that we did our row 1. So into that following stitch into the base, we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through everything. That slip stitch still doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. And then to work our way up to the following row, into that following stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch either. Flip our work and then put one back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. From here, we're just going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we make our way all the way around and we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam it all together. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. We don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it all together. And this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam. So let's all make sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through everything, and we're all going to start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. So into that first stitch, insert into that front loop, into the front panel. Into the back panel, we're going to insert our hook only into that back loop. Then when we have those 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do that again. Into the next stitch into the front panel, insert into that front loop. And then the next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you guys back. Alrighty, so we're back. The bottom band is all seamed up, so now we're going to get started on the mock neck. So we're all going to start by making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up, and we're going to be inserting our hook into the top corner stitch of our cable stitch detail. Then this is going to be pretty much the same way that we started off the bottom band. So we're all going to start by making a chain, the height that we'd like for our mock neck to be, so you can make this as tall or as short as you'd like. I'd like for mine to be roughly about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 10, and we're going to continue on with our back loop slip stitch rows, making our way all the way across the top of the cable stitch detail. And these back loop slip stitch rows will be connected into the base the same way that it was for the back panel, so work your way across until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. And I'll meet you back to show you how we're going to do the length of our mock neck. Alrighty, so we are back. We have just worked our way across the top of our cable stitch detail. And now what we're going to do from here is just more back loop slip stitch rows, but we don't have anything to connect it to. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1, flip our work, put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of that row, chain 1, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. From there, we're just going to continue to repeat our back loop slip stitch row with no increases and no decreases. So we should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made until we have a portion that can stretch around our head. And we do want to make sure that we're stretching it as if we're wearing it, because it does have a decent amount of stretch to it. Once we have that, I will meet you back right after an even number row, so along the top so we can seam it together, and then work in with our single crochets so we can clean it all up. Alrighty, so we are back. I now have the length of my mock neck all finished up. I have a total of 96 rows, and my total length is 13 inches or 33 centimeters, and that is unstretched because remember it does have a decent amount of stretch to it. Now we're going to seam it together by doing an outside loop slip stitch seam, so the same seam that we did for the bottom band. All we're going to do is fold our work in half and then insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Now we're going to yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and just to do the first one, we're going to insert our hook into that first available stitch and insert only into that front loop. Then into that next available stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over and pull through everything, and that's it. Continue on with our seam until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and then I'll meet you back so we can single crochet along the entirety of our piece to clean it up. So we have just finished up our seam for our mock neck, and now we're going to single crochet along everything, and we're going to start with a chain 1, and we're going to flip our work because we're going to start by putting 1 single crochet into every side row underneath our mock neck. So working underneath our mock neck first, we're doing this so that we can show the front of our single crochet row. We're going to start by finding our first side row, and this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook, and from here we should have some tail ends, so I'm just going to place those tail ends over my hook because I do not want to weave them in later, and all I'm going to do is single crochet around everything. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. There's my first single crochet. Let's do the next one. this raised row is my following side row. So I'm going to find that top loop, insert, continue to place my tail ends over my hook, and single crochet once. And that's it. Let's do the next one. This is my following side row, which is this divot. I'm going to find that top loop, insert with a single crochet, and that's it. Continue on with one single crochet into every side row until we reach the body portion of the other side of our mock neck. Alright, so we are back. We have just finished up single crocheting along the bottom of our mock neck, and now we're just going to do our first few side rows together, and then the rest is just going to be one single crochet into every side row. So right now we should be worked into our side rows where we did our decreases of 6. So everyone should have 1, 2, 3 stitches to work into, so put one single crochet into each of those stitches. So here are my 3 single crochets, and now we should be along the top of our decrease of 6. Now what we're going to do from here is, since this is a decrease of 6, we're going to be putting 5 single crochets just into the top of this cluster. So if we're taking a look at this cluster, we should be able to see some top loops. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to be putting one single crochet into each of those top loops. So all together, let's start by finding our first one, which this is mine right here. We're going to insert with one single crochet. So there's 1. Into my following top loop, there's 2. Following top loop, there's 3. Following top loop, there is 4. And then following top loop, there is 5. Now this is what the side of our piece should be looking like, and we're just going to continue to do this. So right after we finish up our 5 single crochets on top of our decrease of 6 cluster, if you guys have more decrease rows, we should have another set of 3 stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, one single crochet into each of those. And then for our next decrease of 6 clusters, 5 single crochets into the top of that cluster. Then from here, put one single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way up and around. Then once we reach this over here, we're going to continue to put 5 single crochets into the top of our decrease of 6 clusters, one single crochet into every stitch, and make your way all the way up, and then slip stitch into that chain space that we made when we got started on the single crochet row. Alrighty, so we are back, and we have just finished up our single crochet row along pretty much everything, and we are all done. Last thing I have to do is just weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!